Shut up and sit down.
Welcome to the Health and Wealth Podcast with your hosts, Tim and Carter.
What's trending in Richards? Carter Wilcoxon, founder of CSI Financial Group here, with my co-host and former wealth advisor, Tim James, founder of
chemicalfreebody.com and your new health advisor. This is the show where we reveal the connection between physical and financial abundance.
Hey, welcome back in Richards. Carter Wilcoxon here, coming to you live from sunny, actually rainy, overcast Phoenix, Arizona today, which is unusual. We got a little bit of weather coming in and everything, but let me go ahead and bring in my co-host, Mr. Chemical Free Body himself, Tim James, who is very excited about my newest purchase that I just made that I can't wait to talk about today with my sauna. So Tim James, how are you doing, bud?
I'm doing awesome. And I was really excited that you finally got your sauna. That's really cool. I've been talking about it for a while. You finally got around to it. And you said you exercised, and then you jumped in it for 10 minutes. So how hot was that little sauna?
Oh my goodness. So it was awesome. So a couple of things. I said I did a little bit of cardio, right? And then I got in, and I was the first one to do it. Now, you know that this was my Valentine's Day present to my better half, Christina, right?
Yeah.
So
that's a genius way to get yourself a sauna, dude. Genius.
What's that?
That is a genius way to get yourself a sauna.
I thought so.
To buy it as a present for your wife.
Hey, but she's been asking for it for a long time. So that was really
smart.
For me, it was a twofer. Let's be honest.
It's a really good deal for the whole family. Yeah.
Yeah, it really is. So I get in for 10 minutes. She sets me up. I was the first one to try it out and everything. And while I'm in there for 10 minutes, she's on the Peloton, getting ready to do it. And then after I left, headed into work after my 10 minutes in the sauna, to answer your question, it was super hot. It was awesome. And then I called her up later on this afternoon and I said, hey, so how was your sauna? She was like, oh my goodness, it was amazing. I did the Peloton and then I got in there and then I went and took a hot bath or, whatever bath she took. And, she's just pampering herself today. She's doing getting her toes done with our daughter today, a little date and everything. So anyway, yes, it was awesome that I got the sauna, and I couldn't wait to talk about it to our enrichers today about how this has just been my first day one, but it's pretty easy. I couldn't get over how easy it was to like set up. It's right there in my living room. I go in, zip it up, turn it on, 10 minutes, done.
Yeah, and after a while, you'll work your way up to 12, 15 minutes, and eventually, 25, 30 minutes. But the cool thing is that infrared saunas in general are just flat awesome because the vibrational frequency of water in nature is infrared, specifically 8 microns. So this specific what's so cool about it is this technology developed by these Taiwanese scientists. They actually broke a natural law. So they were able to deliver 98% pure infrared, which no other sauna on the market can do that because they don't have that tech. I've been a sauna dealer for 9 years, and I sell some of the best wooden box saunas. But when I found about this technology, in good conscience, unless somebody says, hey, I want a big wooden box sauna, I want to have 3 or 4 people in it with me, my family. I'm like, okay, that's good. And saunas are good. They're really good. They're good for skin. They're good for sleeping. They're good for putting toxins out. They're clinically proven to melt fat cells and arthritis pain and joint pain, recovery from workouts and all this stuff. It's so good for you. It's just that these little saunas are 6 to 9 times more effective because of the technology inside of them. So what's so cool about it is that they can raise your core temperature 2 to 3 times more than the best wooden box saunas that I sold for 9 years. So that's why I got into it. And for me, my personal experience was the first 2.5 weeks I had acne on my back, my neck, and my chest, my face, and I was very excited about it. Now, most people are like, why would you get excited about acne? Well, because the skin is a detoxification system. Urination, defecation, perspiration. That's one way. We push things throughout our skin, right? And that's a way of elimination. So I was excited because I knew my body was pushing stuff out at a deeper level. 2 months later, after taking these saunas daily, my skin had all cleared up. But then all of a sudden I had all this gray shit coming out of my white towel. And that happened for Went on for 5 months. 5 months, gray stuff coming out, lots of it pouring out of me. It was heavy metals that had accumulated in my body over the years from shooting, loading shotgun shells and, chewing on split shots when I'm fishing and stuff like that. And we probably grew up in lead paint back in the 70s. So, I was around a lot of farm equipment and construction work, and I was around a lot of toxins. I swallowed leaded gasoline one time. So I'm sure I had a lot of heavy metals in me.
Yeah.
But it's been pushed. It pushed most of it out. Now I still have little specks and flakes of it coming out like I did this morning, but it's not near what it was. So it's still working. And that other sauna that I had wasn't able to do that. So for me, and we live in this polluted world today, I think it is not, it's like a necessity. It's not like a luxury.
Yeah.
It's like we have to have this today to get the toxins and the heavy metals out. And then the side benefit is it makes our skin look freaking awesome. It rejuvenates our organ systems. We're going to sleep better. It's going to reduce pain and inflammation, recovery, yada, 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 all the way down the line.
Yeah. Well, so Tim, and maybe what we can do is for our enrichers, maybe we'll make sure we put in our show notes or something, a way to get onto the enrichers website so that they can find out a little bit more about that sauna if they're interested in getting one for themselves. But I will tell you, as a purchaser of one, it's awesome. It's an individual, single, sauna and everything, but it was unbelievable how in 10 minutes I got out and I was just like, anyway, I can't wait for like being able to build up to, 12, 15, 20. I saw it all the way to 30 minutes. So it's funny. And I know we're getting ready to bring our guest on and everything, and we don't want to take away from you and Richards. I know that you're all here interested to find out who our next guest is, and we're excited to bring her on momentarily. But it was funny as I was sitting there and my wife's on the Peloton. She was like, "So what's it like?" And I was like, at like maybe 6, 7, 8 minutes. I said, "Well, I'll tell you this much. I don't know how anybody's in this thing for 30 minutes is what I said." She goes, "Oh, you're on the countdown now." I said, "Yeah." I'm just like, "Come on, 2 more minutes. Let's go." So anyway,
you'll work your way into it. Everybody does. I got a guy who's got, he's recovering from, he had glioblastoma, brain tumor cancer, had surgery. They removed what they could, but there's a chunk left behind because they couldn't, they'd rip his brain out. So, and he's getting into it almost an hour with his head inside. So he zips up inside of it.
wow.
He's worked his way up to an hour, but he has a burning desire to live. So he's just like, I'm going to freaking, because not me saying it, but, Dr. Coyne, who has like 5 specialties in medicine, and people understand if a doctor has 2 specialties, they're considered a genius. This guy's got 5. So he was the guy who developed virtual colonoscopies with Siemens Corporation, did a bunch of other crazy cool stuff. And anyway, he said that the infrared, it's a longer story, but I'll sum it up in 30 seconds. Hyperthermia is a treatment used years ago in Europe to help people kill cancer cells and heal of their cancer, where they raise the core temperature of the body and they have to administer under doctor's supervision anti-convulsion medication, because what they're doing. So when you raise the core temperature, just like when the body gets a flu, you get a fever, right? Your body creates a core temperature raise to do what? To kill the virus. Well, they were doing this artificially in Europe to kill cancer cells, and it was working. So as cancer is just exploding in the United States, people squawked to the FDA about it, and they wanted them to do something. So the FDA hired Dr. Coyne and like 5 or 6 of his genius buddies, and they did this 5-year study on hyperthermia. At the end of that study, he was speaking to Dr. Clement, who runs the Hippocrates Health Institute, where I started my journey at that detox and nutrition clinic in West Palm Beach, Florida. And he said, "Brian, if you'll just get your clients into an infrared sauna for 30 minutes a day, 6 days a week, it's much more effective at killing cancer cells than the hyperthermia treatment that we studied for the last 5 years, which, by the way, is very effective." And after hearing that news, Dr. Clement plastered the institute with infrared saunas. From that day forward, he will not travel or go anywhere without a sauna. I followed suit. 9 years, I don't miss saunas. And then when I found this sauna, I was very excited to be able to up my sauna game like 6 levels. So it's a very big deal for many things. Everybody needs a sauna today. It's just that's where it's at.
Yeah. It's almost like everybody needs an estate plan, right? But we digress.
Yeah, we have to educate people. That's the whole point.
It's all about education. There's no doubt about it. And one last thing I was going to say before we bring on Annie's son, who's joining us from Atlanta, Georgia today. There's a difference between being alive and living. And the thing that people that care about their health, they don't want to just be alive. They want to actually live, right? And this is one of those enhancements that I made, that, financial decision, investment, if you will, into myself and my family, right?
Smart.
And it only because I've got an amazing co-host in Tim James that I even learn about these things. So enrichers, you are absolutely being enriched on a regular basis if you're listening to this show. So, Tim James, you got one last thing you want to say before we bring on our guest?
Well, I will say this. I've on my show, on the Health Hero show, I've got a guest coming up pretty shortly. She's a death doula. And, there's birth doulas, which is really cool. I just actually interviewed a birth doula, Stephanie Enton, and that was really cool. So she helps people, helps the wife and the dad, the expecting mother, expecting the father to, she's like the guiding source. She helps them with, taking care of everything, and she's also a dietitian. So she helps them with the food and preparing the room and the in-home birth, or if she's at the hospital doing all this stuff. So she helps welcome the child in. The death doula helps you as you exit. And what I'm excited about the death doula is, I already know this, but I want to get it from an inside account from her, is that, to speak to what you said, is like, people are living, they're alive, they're breathing, but they're not truly living, right? They're not really following their passion, their excitement, their joy. And unfortunately, when you get old and you don't do that, you're going to be on your deathbed, and death is going to be a very scary thing for you. There's going to be a lot of fear around it. There's going to be a lot of crying and emotional detox happening, because you realize that you've really wasted this gift that you were giving, right? And so I was chatting with her about it, this death doula. Her name's Presence. I mean, what a freaking great name for what she's doing. I was blown away. She's from Germany. She's a really cool dudette. And anyway, I was talking to her about this, and I said, has that been your experience? She's like, oh yeah. She's like, when people have really lived their lives, they're happy, they're not afraid. It's a wonderful, joyous process. But the people that didn't live, that just got caught up in society and fear mongering and being scared about everything and watching the news and doing all that stuff and going along with standard American whatever, man, they are just frightened out of their minds and freaked out and scared. And it's a rough transition for them. So anyway, that's why I'm having her on, because I want to try to paint the picture ahead of time. And I'm sharing this with the enrichers today, because I want to paint a little bit of that brush with that picture today, with the brush, to just kind of let you know, it's like, we talk about health and wealth. These are two forms of abundance in this time space reality. And yes, they're important. And we really want to make sure that beyond like having a lot of money and having your estate plan in place and your succession plan and taking care of your health, is to really be living. There's people that are hypochondriacs that are very healthy and they've got a bunch of money, but they're still living in fear. It's a huge, huge thing. I would rather see somebody living their life and be flat broke with good health. And that would be a much better life than having somebody with lots of money, even good health, but not living your passion. So I think the passion thing, the joy thing, the excitement thing is number one. It takes precedence. The health's right there with it, because the health is the vehicle that gets you through all that. And then let's add the money into, why not?
There you go. Well, with that being said, enrichers, let's go ahead and get to it. Coming to you from, like I mentioned earlier, Atlanta, Georgia, Annie, son of Money Positive. Annie, how are you doing today?
I'm great. That was a great intro in general. It's also overcast and rainy here, which I don't like, but usually it's pretty sunny. Two things. One, I completely agree with that sentiment, Tim, in terms of there are so many, the types of clients I work with. I do work with people who are flat broke, but are living their best lives, and the opposite, where they have a good amount of wealth, but they're constantly stressed. They don't know what to do. It's been very fascinating to see over the past couple years. And then two, I'm curious your opinion on Korean saunas, if you've ever been, like those bathhouses.
Well, can you explain to me the mechanism of them? Is you talking about a steam sauna?
It's like a Japanese onsen. So you'll go and you'll separate into these bathhouses, and then after the bathhouse, there's 20 different sauna rooms with different materials. One could be sea salt, one could be some sort of mineral
Oh
in
yeah,
different
yeah, yeah,
temperatures.
yeah. No, I think that stuff is wonderful. And if you get a chance to go to those Korean bathhouses, I know what you're talking about.
Mhm.
It's awesome. The only difference is that for at home use, most people wouldn't have the square footage to have all that. But if you can go do that stuff, that's great. There's salt baths, there's mineral baths. If you're doing like, like I had this one guy's like, well, I'm gonna get this infrared, so I just get rid of my steam sauna. I'm like, no. I'm like, or he was thinking about putting a steam sauna in. I'm like, no, still get that. Like he wanted to have a big thing, like do the steam bath. I said that's really good for your water-based organs, like your bladder, kidneys, and that kind of stuff. It's a whole different deal. But the infrared that we're talking about, for me, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to help people get detoxed and just help them turn their health around as fast as possible and get rid of inflammation, all that stuff. And this infrared sauna, from everything I've found, is the best approach. And it weighs 33 pounds. It plugs into a 110. You can travel with it. It's very convenient. It's very small. So for people that live in like condos and stuff that couldn't afford a big, or maybe just didn't have room for a big box sauna, not that they couldn't afford it, but so the price becomes an issue for some folks. The size of it becomes an issue for others. That's why I think this little sauna we're talking about is really important. But to your point, yeah, I think that would be awesome. Those bathhouses and steam houses and all the stuff you're talking about, you should go to that as much as you possibly can.
Nice.
Well, with all that being said, we didn't know this was going to be the health, wealth, and health podcast today. We're getting a lot of health stuff in, and but I do want to go ahead and jump in. I know that we normally are coming up against a hard break right now and everything, and maybe Tim, James, I'll leave this up to you. But do we want to go ahead and take a break now, and then we can in the second segment we can actually knock out Annie's journey as well as what her clientele looks like, because we've already alluded a little bit to them already, and then we can do another back end on the health segment.
Sure. That sounds good.
All right.
So we'll take a quick break, and when we get back, we're going to chat with Annie's son. Woohoo! We're glad she's here today. I can't wait.
Yeah.
I'm using my keyboard here, so I'm very excited to chat with you, Annie, and find out what you're doing over there as a financial coach and an investment advisor. We'll be right back.
Estate planning. What does that even mean? When the inevitable happens for everyone on this planet, your estate plan kicks into action. But first, let's start with what an estate is. An estate is simply everything you own. Now, here's the issue and what needs to be understood when this event occurs. You only have two choices on this plan. Number one, either you plan how your estate gets handed out and distributed to those you leave behind. Or number two, your state decides who gets everything you own. For the first time ever, you can now take complete and total control of this plan that you've been deprived of for most of your life and generations before you. You can get personalized assistance along the way with a team of specialists whose job it is to make sure you have true peace of mind. It's important to understand that estate planning is a journey, and rest assured that our team will be available to you all along the way and at every step. Welcome to eState Plan, home of the last estate plan you'll ever need. To learn more, make sure to reach out to your local advisor licensed with us or go to our website for more information.
What's up, Enrichers? Tim James here. I'm back with my co-host Carter Wilcoxon, and today in the house we have Annie Sun. She's a financial coach and investment advisor out of the Atlanta, Georgia area. And Annie, why don't you get into a little bit of your backstory? Like, how did you get into financial advising? Was this like something you were a little kid and you're like, I can't wait to be a financial advisor, or how did that come about?
Great question, because when I was a little kid, I did not know what financial planning was. Even as a young adult, I didn't know what it was. I just didn't have that as a resource in my family. And just as a little context there, my parents immigrated from Korea, and it was a very classic American dream story. They came in, I think, with less than $100 worked minimum wage jobs. I think my mom's first job might have been McDonald's, just as a start. But now they were able to retire early through small business, and so. But even then, they never really talked about money, and so it was a very confusing process for me. And what happened was I studied business in school. I was a project manager. I worked corporate. I worked in tech, and realized that I really wanted to work with artists and creatives. I've always been around those types of people, and always recognized that most of the time they don't care about the business side. They're not thinking about the money in a scalable way, even like about law things, that those all stress them out. And those are all things that I find really interesting. And so I worked in project management in a creative studio, was around all these artists, realized I'm working with them, but not necessarily helping them directly. And so I recently switched careers into financial planning. And luckily, with where I work with a lot of artists and doing exactly what I want, which is great.
So Annie, let's talk a little bit about your childhood. You said your parents immigrated here from Korea. I'll make a safe assumption that it was South Korea. I know that
Yes.
there's a North of Korea too, but you said Korea, so I was just making that assumption. So were you born and raised here in the United States after they immigrated then?
Yes, born and raised here. My Korean is not good at all. I will say, so my parents are from South Korea, but my dad's family, because the split wasn't that long ago. Before the split, my grandpa, my dad's side, and his dad, they physically walked all the way down, because there was, at that point, you could choose, and but they left like the rest of their family behind because of that. So I don't know anyone else in that deep in my dad's side of the family.
Wow. So then they immigrated, and now you're in Atlanta, Georgia, but I'll make an assumption that they didn't immigrate to Atlanta, Georgia when they first came.
Yes, I think my dad came first in, I want to say maybe Tennessee or Alabama, and my dad hated it. It was very country, and I think he expected something else when he came here, just because he didn't have any knowledge of what America would look like. And now we know, obviously, every corner looks vastly different. And so he made his family move to around Atlanta, to be more around the city and have a little bit more opportunity in general.
So you are born and raised yourself then in Atlanta, Georgia.
I'm a Georgia Southern girl. Yes.
Okay. All right. So, well, you guys had
Georgia Peach.
Georgia Peach. There you go.
Georgia Peach.
Yeah. So, you guys just had a fairly big deal happen. The World Series, right? Atlanta Braves. So,
I knew you'd get sports in here somehow, Carter.
Well, you know me, I'm always trying to bring sports in if I can. But anyway, I mean, that's a big deal, right? If that's where you're from, you know, your hometown, you know, the Braves win the World Series. That's a big deal. The Falcons, I'm sure that you were, well, I don't know if you followed
Atlanta United. We had the 96 Olympics.
Yeah. So you are one of our younger financial advisors. Pre-show, we were talking about how you're not the youngest, but you're definitely one of the younger ones that we have and everything. So you're mid-20s and everything. You were talking about how you didn't even realize, you know, growing up that was even such a thing. That could even be a career. So once you discovered that, you know, what gave you sort of like that heart and that passion to like want to pursue that to help people? Is that just something that is innate in you from your family growing up? Or is that just something that you thought was going to be worthwhile and beneficial to not only you, but to those that you're serving?
I realized a little bit later in life that that's something I wanted. I will say, when I was first working out of school, out of college, I was very focused on stability, making a good income, all those things. And a lot of that is because of my growing up. But luckily, I think as basically through college, my family was just doing better financially. And also, just being Asian as context, we have this unsaid expectation of we will take care of our parents when they're older. Financially, a lot of times they live with us, those types of things. And so financial stability is a big deal in that sense. But now they retired early and they're good. That kind of gave me this
Free reign.
freedom. Yeah,
Yeah.
honestly, it did. I'm very grateful for it. I'm grateful that they're doing well, of course. And so right now, I'm actually only working part-time while I study and get certified with the CFP. Of course, you could do that while working full-time, but decided I'm going to take some time to explore other things, figure out exactly what I like. I like the age I'm in. It's very fun. Exploration, trying new things.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. So, well, let's get into a little bit of your the current clientele. I know that you said you like working with creatives, right? And that mindset is definitely, specialized. And I remember whenever I first met with you and Lewis, who I know wasn't able to make it today. Shout out to him, and hopefully he gets a feeling better soon. I was
What's up, Lewis?
yeah. I was like, that's interesting. So your whole business model is to try to help, more of the artistic type. So talk a little bit about what does your typical, if there is such a thing, advisory client look like?
It is definitely diverse, but a lot of creatives, they come in, they don't necessarily have stable income, could be seasonal, or they're just a freelancer, so they don't really know what might come in even the next day or the next month. So that's something we work with. We do generally lean towards a little bit younger on average compared to, I think, typical clients. And then I think the biggest thing is they appreciate someone that can speak their language or just not judge them for the way that they think about money. A lot of people I work with, they care about socially conscious investing, and B, a lot of people, they don't necessarily think about retirement just because they don't think even in 50 or 100 years that, society will even be the same at all with the environment, socially, all those things.
So then you mentioned before you are an investment advisor. However, you kind of look at yourself more as like a financial coach. Is that fair?
Yes, I did not realize going into it, but I honestly feel mostly like a therapist. The numbers, I think anyone can learn, anyone can teach. But it's really a lot of just holding space. Sometimes there's tears, sometimes it's just a lot of things. But I like it. It's an honor.
Yeah.
Sounds like an ayahuasca ceremony. Have you ever had ayahuasca?
No, I haven't. What's that?
Well, it's a plant medicine from the jungles of Peru. It activates. It kind of turns on the God molecule. But anyway, that you used a word. You said holding space, and that's actually have come up ever since I was in ayahuasca, and I started picking up books like Perfect Love, Imperfect Relationships by John Wellwood. Being in Love by Osho. Just a bunch of these. Krishnamurti. People like that. Holding space is something that's really it's really a profound statement. It's a mythology where it's like, let's say Carter, as an example, you're married and your wife is unloading on something. A lot of times us guys, we're trying to fix it, get to the problem, and let's provide a solution. And sometimes they don't want a solution. Sometimes we just need to hold space and be that container for them, right? To allow them to express themselves. So I think that's really cool what you're doing, Annie, because you have to have some what would I say? I don't even know how to put it. You have to just be, you have to have a good awareness around that, and not be very, you have to let your ego down, because it's not about you. You're really about them. And I feel that from you. So I just think that's very commendable what you're doing.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. So, in Richards, by the way, here's a little tip based upon what Tim James just said. I wish I'd have learned about holding spaces a long time ago, because it would have probably stopped from a lot of, that typical, male mentality. And you're exactly right. It's just like, hurry up and tell me the problem and let me hurry up and fix it. Right. It's like, no, sometimes my wife, I say sometimes, a lot of times, she just wants me just to listen. Right. I'm not there to fix anything, which you would think, well, why wouldn't you want to be like that? I'm just here to listen. Okay, well, that's easy, but that's just not our mentality, I guess. And it takes some time to learn that. So in Richards, if you're married, when your wife is like, giving you whatever, just stop and just listen and hold space. Is that what you called it, Annie? Is that right?
Yeah, I would agree. I would say whenever there is a problem, quote unquote, I have the mentality that 90% of the solution is being actively aware, and 10% is actually the action. Because usually people focus on, even if you're thinking about physical fitness and working out, people say, I need to do these workouts, I need to have this workout regimen, I need to eat these foods. But at least that doesn't work for me. I'm not good with routines. But once I tell myself that that's a priority in my life, I naturally start just being more active. I eat better. And I just I don't know. I don't know if that works for everyone, but that definitely works for me.
Yeah, that's awesome. So now, how long from the time because you said you went to college. Where'd you end up going to college at?
Georgia Tech.
Georgia Tech. All right. So, the Yellow Jackets.
Mm-hmm.
I knew he'd do it.
Of course. Well, who doesn't know, right? I mean, I say who doesn't know. Obviously, who doesn't know?
Well, those art people probably don't know.
But if you don't know now, you do. So from the time you got into college and everything, and did you know going into college that this was the route you were going to take, or did that kind of start forming while you were at Georgia Tech?
I absolutely did not know. I think I've thought about it around the end, or maybe right after college, when I was working my first corporate job. But I did realize that over time, just throughout those recent years, and we mentioned it earlier, that I actually do genuinely care about having a direct impact in my career. I didn't think it would be that important, but then, especially after my first job, I was like, this is extremely important to me. I actually was deciding between should I go all the way when it comes to money and go straight into investment banking, the corporate job, which was in the middle, which I ended up going for, and then my third option was being a teacher in the Bronx. And so I'm constantly always thinking about different things. I see myself as someone who will have 50 careers in my life. Even right now, I'm trying a bunch of different things. I'm an apprentice at a wood shop. So who knows what will happen in 2 years.
Yeah. So it sounds like to me that you really do owe your parents a debt of gratitude for their proactiveness to get their affairs in order, though, so to speak, right? Where you didn't feel like it was going to be dependent upon you to have to take care of it. And I know that culture, that's pretty, normal. And, growing up where, Tim and I grew up in the South, that's very normal, where, your grandparents end up living with you and you're taking care of them. And I know that I had my aunts and uncles that were taking care of my grandparents and great grandparents. I remember that, growing up very instinctively. So they really did afford you that ability to have so many different options. Is that fair?
Absolutely. Super, super grateful. I'm also just lucky with, I say the American dream, but I feel like we lucked out in a lot of different ways, because I think some people have similar scenarios and circumstances, but it still didn't pan out in their best favor. There was one other thing I was going to say, but I can't remember.
Well, I think I was just talking about, how much of a, debt of gratitude that your parents really afforded for you to.
Oh, yes. I remember if things panned out differently and potentially maybe I felt financially secure younger, I would have definitely in a different life pursued art and studied art in school, but that wasn't at the time absolutely not an option for me. But who knows? I might do that later in life.
Yeah.
We have time.
Yeah.
We're all so young.
Hey, well, let me tell you what, I'll be 49 in June.
Young.
And 3 years ago, I picked up a guitar. And I've been playing guitar, and I really enjoy it. And it's a lot of fun, and it's never ending. So whatever it's painting or, crocheting or guitar or violin or whatever you want to do, any type of art, I totally think you should do it. Maybe just 10 minutes a day. Find something now and start now and make it a small little, as long as it's exciting. You want to do something that really, where you feel pulled, not where you have to push yourself to do it. If this goes for everything, guys. So if you feel like you have to do something, probably not. It's probably not where you need to be spending most of your time. Some things we have to do, but then again, you can turn things around because you realize that you're part of the process itself. Like maybe some people don't want to clean the toilet. You have to do it, but turning that around in your mind, saying, "Oh, I get to do this." It's the other day. I live in a situation right now. I'm helping a gal that's got breast cancer, and both her parents had to move in with her, which means they're living in the same house with me. And he's like right away. And, he's like in his 90s, and he's kind of lost some of his faculties and stuff like that. And he, just has urine accidents all over the place. Well, the other day I got out of the shower and I was drying off my head, and all of a sudden I could smell urine on my towel. And I was like, oh, I must use my towel to clean up some pee. Now, old redneck Tim probably would have been, God dang it, and just madder and hornet. And I thought about it, and I just was like, okay, whatever. And I thought, what's the benefit for me in this situation? And I thought, well, number one, he's created a lot of contrast for me so that I will take care of myself. So when I'm his age, I won't have to go through that. Number two, I feel a lot of compassion for him because he just lost his faculties so much that he doesn't even know what he's doing half the time. And I have all my faculties right now, and I'm very, I can smell the, that's good. So I found the benefit for it out of me. And I just think that's just it's a much better way to go through life. And it's a lot less stress on yourself, and you're a lot more happier and more calm.
Yeah. Well, to that point, Tim, as I say this on a regular basis, especially to my young kids, right? 18 and 15 years old, there's no substitute for experience, right? And you have to actually experience certain things. And really what you're talking about is your maturation process, right? The redneck you, right? Really what you mean is the younger you, the less informed you, the less someone who hadn't had that life experience, right? Mm-hmm. So, it's,
because you could be an enlightened person and still be redneckish. And for some weird reason, I'm very proud of being a redneck, and I like it. It's like I'm the dirt, man. I'm tough as dirt. Like I'm from, I don't know. I just like that. Just like real people, decent human beings, handshake, your word. There's something to be said for that. Sweating on you, sweat of your brow. Sweat equity, building, creating things. Working class people. I really respect that. And there's a lot of rednecks in the city too, so you don't have to be out in the country growing up like I did.
Yeah.
Are we all from the South?
Yeah. Well,
I'm from Eastern Oregon.
Yeah, which is interesting. He's from the sticks. Let's just say that.
Yes, that's true.
Yes. I am from the South. I'm from Little Rock, Arkansas. So yes.
Little Rock, Arkansas is where my best friend is from and still is.
Oh, yeah. There you go. So, what I thought was interesting, Annie, I want to talk about this before I know we're going to go to break here in just a minute, but I want to talk a little bit about the fact that whenever we first started getting to know one another and talking about you coming on to be a guest on the Health and Wealth podcast was my daughter, who is 18, and she's an artist, right? And it's been it's been unique because it's just such a different type of mentality, right? Not only is she female and she's, my child, but she's also an artist. And I'm just like, I just don't, we just don't see eye to eye on stuff. And I'm trying to have more empathy towards all of those types of things. So, if you had anything that you could, share with the enrichers and maybe me myself about, the artist's mind on giving us a little bit of insight into their psyche.
That was a good question. I feel like all of them are very different because you can still be a very analytical person, obviously a very intellectual, smart person, and be a creative and artist. But probably a common tie, I think, is the way they view life, and they find it very beautiful. And because of that, they have this compelling feeling to express it in a way that's either through words, art, visually, musically, and that's something I've always appreciated. I think that would be a common thread, and I think everyone can get on the same page and relate because life is beautiful.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And as we said, I think on the first segment, there's a huge difference between living and being alive, right? So if you, I don't know, maybe it was, I don't remember who said this, but, and I'm going to paraphrase, and for some reason, I'm thinking this was Albert Einstein.
It was Peter Pan.
I think it was Albert Einstein, actually. Difference. I could be wrong. It could have been Peter Pan. It could have been Peter Pan, actually. There's one of two people, right? There's one person who looks at everything as if nothing is a miracle, and then someone who looks at it as if everything is a miracle, right? And that mindset really helps you have an appreciation for just life in general, right? And to be able to live it. So anyway, I just wanted to throw that out there.
Well, here's a perfect example. I think I brought it up in the last episode. You don't think much about your legs that are walking you around and taking you all over the place until you get in a car accident, your back gets severed, and then your legs don't work. And then you realize, damn, those legs were a freaking miracle. Right? It's that perspective. So, if you can get that perspective all the time, hopefully before, and hopefully something like that never happens to you. That's a gratitude practice is what you're talking about, Carter. And it's very important. It's literally the most powerful emotion. It's been measured. It's even more powerful than love. And that's gratitude. Just being grateful for your life, being grateful for your friends, being grateful for your family, being grateful for the breath that you just breathed in your body and how your amazing body processes all this stuff. It's amazing. So with that, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we'll flip the script. Let Annie ask me any questions she wants on health. We'll be right back.
You want the absolute best for yourself, and you want it to be easy. That's why we created Green 85. It helps with detoxifying the body gently. We're proud it's chemical-free, unlike almost all other supplements you'll find. Bottom line, Green 85 will get you healthier. We look forward to hearing what Green 85 did for you.
To get this product and our other amazing products, go to chemicalfreebody.com. That's chemicalfreebody.com.
What's up, Enrichers? Tim James here. I'm back with my co-host, Carter Wilcoxon. Today in the house, we have a very special guest, Annie Sun from Atlanta, Georgia. So, Annie, thanks so much for being here today. You've brought some kindness and some warmth to the Health and Wealth podcast. We appreciate that. And also, I think you may have inspired a few people to really pursue what they're happy about and be okay to try this and try that and try to figure out what you're really excited about and keep moving on and doing that, because that's what you're doing. I really applaud you for that. So now this will be a fun part. This is where you get to flip the script and you can ask me questions, anything you want on health for yourself, a family member, a friend, society in general, or anything. Go ahead.
That is good. I'm so glad I would pay for something like this. I am curious. I have multiple friends. They have terrible time sleeping, and maybe it'll be insomnia, waking up in the middle of the night, no good quality sleep. And I can't tell if there's a common thread, if there's a reason why. Everyone's around my age. I don't know if that has a factor into it or what they can do. They say melatonin won't work and other things just make them drowsy. I don't know.
Well, typically when that kind of stuff happens, it's, you got to go back to the root of the issue, right? So, well, the first thing, I mean, if you're going to look at it from, could it be something? Well, what are things that could disrupt sleep patterns? Do they have a smart meter outside of their house? How close is it to their bedroom? Right? That thing's putting off 2.4 gigahertz, just like it's literally like having a microwave oven turned on next to your head. So
should I not have a phone next to me when I sleep?
No. In fact, here, I'll show you.
Interesting.
This is a Faraday cage bag. So at night, I put my phone in this and I seal it up so that it's completely. The best thing to do is people that have some people are more sensitive to these different frequencies, cellular frequencies, EMFs, Wi-Fi, and all this stuff to the point where it completely destroys their life. Right. So if it's doing that to the people that are highly sensitive, what do you think it's doing to us that aren't as sensitive? It's still doing damage, but you can't see it as much. So it's a very gentle slam on your quality of life, basically. Right. So a lot of people, what they'll do is in their master bedroom, they have an electrician come in and wire everything so that they can just flip a switch and all the electric current to that house in that area in the master is gone. Right. Because there's these things called ELFs. They're electric low frequencies. And if you take a meter and you are within 3 foot of a light socket, it'll go like this. And you'll be like, oh my God. Then you realize like, that's where my head is. Right. So, you can either move your bed away at least 3+ feet away from a light socket, or now they have things you can actually plug in and neutralize them. Right. Which is good. And there's also little sticker things that are harmonizers you can put on there too, or both. And then you could also do, have an electrician do that whole deal and just shut it off at night. I had a gal, her husband was really injured and, had some issues from military and he just couldn't quite heal. They tried everything. They did everything super healthy. Went raw foodist, all this stuff. It was the last straw was they had to get his cell phone away from him at least 12 feet. And then he started to heal.
Wow.
That's what it was, especially at night. So they actually sold their home, moved an hour and 40 minutes out of town, like literally, they changed their whole life. And so instead of working 5 days a week, they were open long hours, 3 days a week. And they had these longer weekends. And then they had the cabin where they moved to. So it wasn't like the switch in the house, or exactly like the switch in the house I was just telling you about for the master bedroom, but they would go outside and go, and they'd shut all the power down to the entire cabin. And then they would go to bed, just like in nature. So a lot of people, when they go out into nature, they start sleeping better than they've ever slept before because they're intense, right? So there's multiple things happening. Number one, the EMFs, the electromagnetic frequencies, the Wi-Fi's are gone pretty much, right? Number two, they're getting fresh air. It's very, very important. So these friends of yours should be cracking their windows at night. These energy efficient homes are becoming death coffins of toxicity because there's no airflow. And the paint, when you paint a room for 4.5 years, it's off-gassing toxins into your body, right into your lungs. And you breathe 20,000 breaths a day. So 20,000 times you can poison yourself a day when you're breathing toxic fumes. So that's why we recommend non-toxic paint. Kind of a smart thing. TheGreenDesignCenter.com. That's where you want to get it. Some of them they say no VOCs. VOCs is not the thing. I have an episode where I had Andy Pace on. I could digress on this with the Green Design Center, but just low or no VOCs is not freaking just perfect. Okay. There's a lot of other chemicals and stuff that you want to look out for. So fresh air is very important. What kind of mattress are they sleeping on? Most people's mattresses are garbage. They think they're good. They're not. I mean, there's these certain types of mattresses that are like sleep, they put different, you could put different like settings on them to adjust. I can't even say the name because I don't want to get sued or something, but you change the settings and there's different firmness and softness. They're air chamber type things. Those air chamber mattresses get mold inside of them, right? Heat up and down, condensation, and then you're basically breathing mold, right? There's other ones that have metal springs, and those metal springs become superconductors for all the Wi-Fi and stuff like that. So you're basically like sleeping on a freaking superconductor. So like the mattress that I have, it does have the springs because those are very important for spinal, but each individual coil is insulated so that it can't conduct with the other ones, you know. So it's just stuff like that. So you got to make sure you got a really good quality bed. And then, there's a lot of other things, like people are stressed out. They're just stressed out and they don't know how to manage their stress. They're not doing any, exercise is really good for that. It's going to help you sleep better. Meditation. Another thing is getting like away from the blue lights, the screens, the TVs. Like if your bedtime's hopefully 10 p.m., at least 9 p.m., all those electronics are off. Because if those blue lights or any lights coming at you, you're not going to produce melatonin because your body still thinks it's freaking daylight, right? So it's just, we have to get back to these natural processes and be more in nature. And so that's a good time at night to read a book and settle down. And one of the best things to do to help you sleep is take a sauna, like one of those little saunas we talk about. I mean, that 15 minutes of stress is gone. And then you go get in the water, rinse off, and just go to bed. Man, that's going to help you sleep. Another thing they can do is they don't have a sauna right now. They could just go rinse off real quick. Just a little water over the body. That's going to help you calm down. You could also put lavender essential oil on the back of your neck and on your toe. Another thing you do is put some Roman chamomile essential oil on your chest or drop on your pillow. You could also diffuse that out of your diffuser, and make sure to always rotate. Just always caution people. You don't want to use the same essential oil every night when you're sleeping. You want to rotate at least 4 of them or more to keep, changing up the body, like doing different workouts and stuff. So those are just a few ideas. But sleep is number 3 in the list. Air is number 1. Without it, we're dead in 4 to 7 minutes. Water's number 2. Without that, we're dead in about, your body's mostly made of it. We're dead in about 11 days. And it's the same thing with sleep. About 11 days without sleep, you die. And then after that's food. We can live a couple months without food. So in order, when people are having health issues, we got to go back to the basics. We got to go back to the standard foundational inputs. What kind of air are you breathing? What kind of water are you drinking? How's your sleep, which you just brought up? And what are the things we can do to improve that? And then we go to the food and sunshine and blah, 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 down the road.
Amazing. You mentioned breathing fresh air, which I completely agree. I totally notice a difference when I'm out in nature, but I was grateful to have this opportunity. I was in the Amazon forest, and ever since then, I cannot compare breathing because of I felt like I don't even know how to describe it. It was so clean, so crisp. And so I think about it all the time. And
because the jungle has all those trees in it and plants in it, and the forests create a tremendous amount of what are called negative ions, and negative ions are basically air cleaners. The only place that you're going to get more negative ions than the forest is what would your guess be? Carter, you can jump in too. This is like Jeopardy.
Ooh.
You guys figure it out yet? It's the ocean.
I was gonna say the ocean. That's so funny. Well, I'm being serious. I almost said the ocean. I did.
Those waves coming crashing in. That's why you go to you smell that fresh air, in the ocean. High in negative ions. Very important. So anyway, you can do that. There's ionizers, Annie, and stuff like that. So for me, what I do is I have a Himalayan salt lamp. You can see it behind me. That actually creates negative ions. It cleans the air. I've got essential oils diffusing, but behind this dresser over there, and you can just see it sticking out a little bit. That is my industrial mini air purification system. And most of these air purifiers, they're good ones. They have about a pound of carbon on it. So that's good. But the one I have over there has 15 pounds of carbon, and it's got a zeolite matrix mixed into it. So what's important is that the carbons can't get out all of these. One part, is volatile organic compounds, VOCs. One of them is off-gassing from carpet. If you have carpet in your home, I'm telling you right now, if you're not cracking your windows all day long and getting an air purification system in house, if you knew what I knew, you would be suicidal because you're literally breathing in formaldehyde. Like, why would you do that? Like, just because you can't see it does not mean it's not affecting you, your husband, your wife, your children, people coming over. It's a major problem. It's just one of the toxins too. There's lots of them. The paint's off gassing, the glues are in particle board are off gassing, especially on hot days. The homes are very, very polluted. They're like on average about 100 times more polluted than a like smoggy, foggy, like downtown LA type stuff. It's really bad. And again, the more energy efficient the home, the worse it is, because these toxins can't get out and you're just sitting there breathing them in 24/7, and you kind of get used to it. Now, what happened to Annie was she got out of it. She went and lived in a very clean environment. She had some great, amazing, naturally occurring inputs, all this fresh air coming into her body. And now it's not the same because she knows the difference. She's had first person experience. Other people might have noticed this is like if you move into city tap water and all of a sudden you can kind of smell the chlorine or whatever, and then you get a water purification system, and all of a sudden you're like, whoa, and then you try to drink the tap water and you can't even do it anymore. And you were drinking it for a while or years. But once you get purified water, you can't go back, because then now you can tell the difference. But see, we get so tolerable in what we do, we just kind of forget, and we're so busy and distracted with everything else going on in life, we neglect some of the basic fundamental inputs that are going in our body: air, water, sleep, these types of things.
Yeah. Even knowing that, I still really want to, I plan later this year to move to New York, which every time I visit, I notice a distinct difference. Even though it's not the most polluted city, it's enough for me to definitely notice day to day.
Yeah.
And I still want to go. And so I have good tips now.
For me, what I would do if I was you, if I was going to go there, or anywhere, or stay where you're at. Make sure your windows are cracked. Get that air purification system that I have. Like it's like I've tested so many of them. It's like ridiculous. And it lasts like 3 to 5 years on the same filter, and then you just change the carbon filter out and off it goes again. And get yourself one of those little saunas. So as that stuff does come in, you just start pushing out. You stay ahead of the game. Stay ahead and get your water right. Make sure you have really good air, really good water. We can help you out with all that stuff. We have that on our website and stuff like that. If you want to get your air right and your water right and get your body cleaned up, we have products for that kind of stuff. But so, it's just really important. We really believe that people need to be their own doctor. They need to take 100% responsibility for their life. They need to learn how to self-heal. And we believe that everybody should have a chemical-free body and a chemical-free life. I mean, everything's so polluted today that it's just really important. And when your friends get these toxins out of their body and stuff like that, they're gonna sleep better. This isn't like rocket science stuff. It's like, if I'm breathing in toxic air versus breathing in healthy air, which would be better for me? If I'm drinking polluted water with fluoride and aluminum and trace amounts of pharmaceutical drugs in it versus clean, purified, restructured water, which one would be better for me? Like, everybody knows the answer. If I went up to a drive-through and they handed me some boxed processed food that was injected with antibiotics and hormones, that was cooked in a microwave, they nuked it, versus me picking an avocado or a cucumber out of a garden and eating that, which one would be healthier? Everybody knows which one's more healthy, but we get too busy. We got busy pants going on. We got to take off our busy pants and pause for a moment and get back to our roots, literally, which is nature, and realize that you're no different than a fir tree or a pine tree growing out there. No different than a tree growing in nature, because you are nature. And once people start getting this realization, then they can start, I just need to clean all this man-made garbage out of my system on a cellular level and then plug my butt back into nature, and I'll probably start healing. I'll probably feel younger, and I'll have more energy, and I'll have more mental clarity, and I'll start sleeping better. My bowel movements will improve, and everything will start getting better. Yes, that's usually the case. And when you think about it and talk about it like that, a lot of people kind of get it and they understand, I can do this myself. Like, it's not that hard. It's pretty simple. I just got to crawl around in the dirt. Like, literally, that's like literally something we actually tell people to do when they have severe gastrointestinal issues. We have friends of theirs all over the world or the United States ship them boxes of undisturbed soil and dirt and get outside in nature as much as possible, because those bacteria are very important.
Well, hey, I have a question actually for Annie that I've been curious about. And we didn't bring it up or talk about it at all on the show, but I am curious, Annie. I
Mhm.
noticed that you're drinking out of a mason jar. And if you've been listening to the podcast for any length of time at all, you know that one of the very first things that Tim James taught me was to drink out of glass. I'm just curious, have you always drank out of glass, or was that because of the Health and Wealth podcast?
I did hear that, and it more reinforced because I just naturally was drinking out of glass. Um, but it made me feel better.
That's cool.
It was more coincidental.
Okay. All right. Cool. Well, I really, obviously, I love to see the fact that you were, because it's one of the things, like I said, that I've got my water that jar that I fill up my little pink container here. We always like to make fun of this because I told my wife, I'm like, hey, Tim James says I got to drink out of glass. Can you go give me something to put my water in that's glass, and I don't have to drink out of this moonshine jar. So this is what she brought me, and I don't care. It's pink, whatever, but people like to make fun.
I love pink.
Mm.
My favorite color.
Oh. Well,
They're just projecting, Carter, their
I
own
know.
insecurities because they aren't secure with their own selves enough to sport and boast pink like you, brother.
That's right. That's right. I'm definitely, I feel secure and good.
That's right.
Yeah. So awesome. Well, hey, Annie, do you have any other questions for Tim?
Do we have time?
Yeah, absolutely we do.
I
Yeah,
had
we
a
do
quick
one more.
question. I was curious because it sounds like you know a good bit about herbalism, and that is something I'm very interested in. It could even be a whole new career, who knows?
Mhm.
And so I'm curious what's the best way if someone doesn't know really anything, where they can learn, or even a school, because it's not a traditional type of school.
Yeah. Well, I think in this case, man, I can't really speak as an authority of like where to go because I have been very blessed. Like my formulator on my team at Chemical Free Body is Dr. Scott Treadway, and he actually trained in India under 2 different clinics of apprenticeship. So he actually went there and learned, and I think apprenticeship is the way to go, where you find a master, a guru, mentor, and you train under them, and you watch them heal people in real time, or help people heal themselves, and then mix the herbs and learn all that stuff. So he was actually able to train, and he became a master herbalist in Ayurvedic, and then also in Chinese herbology, and then eventually Western herbology. So one thing that keep in mind that's really interesting is that Ayurvedic medicine, when people hear of like things like Vata, Pitta, Kapha, they think, oh, and I was one of them. It's like, oh, that's and here I am, like super open-minded dude. But Dr. Treadway was like, he started talking about Vata, Pitta, Kapha, and fire and energy. I'm just like, oh, dude, like, I'm like, I love you. I totally trust you. All my formulas that we've helped me make are kick ass. I mean, thousands of people are benefiting from these things, but now you're kind of over in La La Land a little bit. But I never really said anything until later. Then I met Dr. Shiva Ayyadurai, who was actually from there. His grandmother was a Siddhar healer. So it's the ancient, she would actually read people's faces. It was an ancient technique of, you could actually read somebody's face and literally tell what their issues were, what organ was wrong, or what was going on in their gut and stresses they had. And I think it was called, crush Shrina Karlakna. I can't remember. It's like some long nerve. It was the name for reading the face. Anyway, Dr. Shiva would realize that as a little boy, because he watched his grandmother heal people, like for 6 days a week, she would heal people. 6 days a week, she'd work in the rice fields. And then one day a week, there'd be a line of 20, 30 people at her hut, and she'd help all these people. And so he saw it as a boy. So he knew it was real. His grandma was doing it right in front of his face for a long time. And then he comes over here and becomes a biologist, a biological engineer in system science for biology, which is the new engineering field after the genome project failed. So they actually took an MIT and made biological engineering, right? So they took a systems approach to the human body and finally got to engineers can't make mistakes. So medical doctors really, for the most part, they're good people, but they really don't even know what they're talking about when it comes to the human body, because they're not being taught the right stuff. They're taught how to, like, oh, you have this problem, and then they look on a chart and give them that pill. That's really not a solution long term for people. Maybe Band-Aid type stuff, but surgeons and stuff, yeah, they have to really know stuff, and but emergency room doctors and that kind of stuff, awesome. But for the general practitioner that's handing out pills, they think that, kind of like I did, that Vata Pitta Kapha stuff is kind of woo woo. But the reality is what Dr. Shiva showed is that Vata Pitta Kapha is basically transport, conversion, and storage from an engineering standpoint. So he looked at it and he almost flipped out, because from an engineering standpoint, everything's a system: input, output, transport, conversion, storage. And then for an intelligent system, you have a sensor, you have a controller, you have a goal. And it was crazy. The 10,000-year-old Ayurvedic medicine is steeped in system science and engineering principles, and it matches up 1-to-1. These people, these natural healers were working with nature. They were system scientists. It's quite remarkable. We've just come to this over here in the Western world, and the kind of the rest of the medicine and stuff like that they're having a hard time with it. They don't like it because it's changing the whole paradigm. Our whole system right now is based on a 2-box system, on the innate and the adaptive immune system. And well, guess what? What about the interferon system? What about the neural system? What about the gut microbiome system? And they're all connected, right? So we can't keep having medicine be administered to people, one size fits all medicine. Everybody gets a jab or whatever, or gets this type of surgery, when it should be personalized precision medicine, the right medicine for the right person at the right time. And we have to understand that our immune system is much more complicated than what we thought it was. And we have to change. But, change comes slowly. Doesn't have to, but if the working class would step up all at once, would happen very quickly. But we just kind of bow down to these other people because we've handed our power over to them. So long story short, I think that I could connect you with Dr. Treadway, but one of the best ways to do it would be just get your butt over to India and just train right there. But I'm sure there's schools and stuff where you could do it here, where there's people like Treadway who went over there and come back, and you could learn from them. But yeah, I think that's a very noble profession. And just understand, when you go into this, that you're not just an herbalist. You're basically learning engineering principles in systems biology that's been proven over 10,000 years to work. Proven. It's quite remarkable technology that they put together. It just sounds funny because they use different words and it's a different language.
I love it. Thank you.
Well, if Annie's son ever becomes a master herbologist, then we'll have to have her on the Health and Wealth podcast show again.
Yeah, for sure.
As a different type of an advisor. So
that's right.
Well, that I think that probably ties it up. Unless you have, I don't know if we have any more time for any more.
I got to get scooting, guys.
All right. So Boot Scootin' Boogie. That we love that song.
I'll have to play that song too.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Well, hey, you know what? If you hadn't, played your song in between for so long, maybe we could have.
I'll play it quietly while you're signing off.
All right. I'll sign off. I'll go ahead.
Here,
hey, thank you so much for joining us for another episode of the Health and Wealth Podcast Show. Listen to all of our previous guests that are amazing, just like Annie's son from Money Positive there in Atlanta, Georgia. Go to our website at www.thehealthandwealthpodcastshow.com. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe anywhere you get your podcast: Spotify, Apple, Google, Podbean, etc. For my fantastic co-host, Mr. Tim James, Mr. Chemical Free Body himself, and our guest, Annie's son from Money Positive, I'm Carter Wilcoxon, CEO and founder of CSI Financial Group, wishing you a very wonderful and abundant day, and we look forward to seeing you the next time on the Health and Wealth Podcast Show. Thank you, everybody. Hey, Enrichers. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Health and Wealth Podcast. I'm your host, Carter Wilcoxon.
And I'm your host, Tim James. And by God, we are committed to helping you guys have fat wallets, flat bellies. So tune in again for another episode, and make sure to like, share, and drink a lot of water.
Or beer.
You have just listened to the Health and Wealth Podcast with Carter and Tim.